Are you thinking about starting a GLP-1 medication, but you're worried if you stop it, then you're going to gain all the weight back? This is a valid concern. I hear this question all the time because the last thing you want is to have lost weight, feel really good in your body, and then gain all the weight back. The truth is, it's not about willpower, it's about physiology. So whether you're thinking about starting a GLP-1 or you're on one, you want to optimize your results, or you're thinking of coming off of one, it helps to understand what it does in your body and what happens when you stop the medication. My name is Martha McKittrick. I'm a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes care and education specialist. And I've been specialized in metabolic health for over 20 years. And I work with many people who are on these medications, helping them optimize results and helping some people get off them. So let's talk about what actually is going on in your body. After we eat, our bodies secrete hormones called incretins. GLP-1 and GIP are two of these. And these hormones help us feel full, they help regulate blood sugar, and they signal the brain, hey, we've had enough food. But some people don't make enough of these hormones, or the signals are weaker. This means there's a lot of hunger, a lot of cravings, a lot of food noise. And to make it worse, these hormones only last for a few minutes, so the effect is gone. Now, the GLP-1 medications are formulated to act like our body's own hormones, but much stronger, and they last for up to a week versus a few minutes. So once you start on them, you'll notice that you have less cravings and less hunger, and you're finally feeling like, hey, this is great. I'm not always thinking about food. But the medication is actually helping your body do this. So if it's stopped, things will shift again. That food noise will probably come back, the hunger will come back, and your body might fight to go back to the weight that it was. It's not a failure, it's biology. So getting back to our question, what happens if you stop the medication? Will you regain the weight? Let's start by looking at some studies, and these studies were done with anywhere from hundreds to 1,000 participants. The first one was called the Step 1 extension trial, and it was done with semaglutide or Wegovy. And in this trial, the participants lost 17% of their body weight. After stopping, they roughly regained 2/3 of the body weight over the following year. Though on average, they still remain slightly below their starting weight. The second one is called the Surmount-4 trial, and this was done with tirzepatide or Zepbound. And in this one, the participants lost 21% of their body weight during a 36-week period. At that point, they separated them into two groups. One group stayed on the medication, and the other group was given a placebo. So in the group that stayed on the medication, on average, they maintained their weight loss and even lost a little bit more. But on the group that was put on the placebo, the majority of people did gain weight, although they did remain a little bit below their initial weight. Now, keep in mind, these are averages, but what I think is interesting about the tirzepatide trial is what happened to the individual participants. And I'm going to read this one because it's long. So when they looked at the individual participants, they saw that a quarter of the people regained more than 75% of their initial body weight, and a small percentage gained even more than their initial body weight. About a third of the people regained 50 to 75% of their body weight, and about a quarter of the people regained 25 to 50% of their body weight. But the good news is that about 17% of the participants regained minimal weight. So they pretty much were able to maintain their weight, and about 4% of the people actually lost a little more weight. But here's the nuance. In these trials, medication was stopped abruptly. There was no nutrition or weight training protocol involved in the studies, and there wasn't individualized long-term coaching after the medication was stopped. So what the data shows is that if you remove the medication, for most people, weight regain is common. But let's step back for a minute. Obesity is a long-standing chronic disease similar to high blood pressure or diabetes. If you remove the medications for those treatments, chances are the condition is going to resurface. And it's the same for weight, especially if you've had a long history of battling your weight or a lot of hunger or food noise, and then you go on this medication, you feel great. It helps to regulate those appetite hormones. And then if you remove the medication, the underlying drivers are still going to be there, the appetite dysregulation. It doesn't mean it's a weakness on your part. It just means it's physiology. So we looked at the studies, but real life is a little more nuanced. Not everybody will regain the weight when they come off of the medication, especially if they've used their time on the medication strategically, which brings us to the real question, who is more likely to keep the weight off? In my experience, if you have a long history of weight problems, especially a lot of food noise, and you come off the medication, it's probably pretty likely you're going to regain the weight, at least some of it, if not all of it. But if this is not you, and you've used your time on the medication strategically, you've built some really good eating habits, you're weight training, you're prioritizing protein, you're working on your sleep and your stress, the medication can help initiate the weight loss, and you do have a chance of keeping the weight loss off once you stop the medication. So does this mean you need to stay on your GLP-1 medication forever? Not necessarily, but for some people, yes. If you have a long-standing history of obesity, especially if it's biologically driven, chances are you will need to stay on it to keep the weight off. But other people will be able to come off it. Some people will choose to taper off it, or other people may want to stay on a low dose of it long-term. And because these medications are still relatively new, we're still continuing to learn what long-term management looks like. So the key isn't whether you stop, it's how you stop. And weight gain is not automatic, but it can be common. So it's important that you do everything that you can to get your body ready to come off these medications. So if you are currently on a GLP-1 medication or you're considering coming off it, I would love to work with you with a personalized plan to help you maximize results, manage your side effects, and help you get off the medication and not regain weight.